Captain Min-jun gripped the control stick tighter as the Arirang pushed through the swirling rocks of the asteroid field. His hands were sweating inside his gloves, but he kept his voice steady as he spoke to mission control back on Earth. This was the moment they had trained for, the first human ship to cross beyond the Helix Nebula. He watched the distant stars grow brighter through the viewport, knowing that no human eyes had ever seen this view before. Back home in Seoul, Dr. Young-yi was having her morning coffee when the call came in. "Doctor, you need to see this. Something appeared in the Han River overnight." She dropped her mug and raced to the lab. What she found changed everything. The object wasn't like anything in Earth's technology. It was beautiful. A crystal structure about the size of a small car, glowing with soft colors that seemed to pulse like a heartbeat. When she got close, holographic images appeared in the air above it. Star maps, mathematical formulas, and symbols that somehow felt peaceful, even though she didn't understand them. Thousands of light years away on a planet called Vega Prime, Ambassador Kai felt the excitement through his psychic abilities. The Zephyrians had been watching Earth for ages, waiting for this moment. His large, luminous eyes focused on the screens showing human space activity. "Finally," he whispered to his assistant, "they've taken their first real step into deep space. Time to begin." The Galactic Council had a process for this. They had done it thousands of times with different species across the galaxy. It was almost like a recipe. First, the newcomers would feel wonder at the technology, then fear when they realized they weren't alone. Finally, they would gratefully accept help from their advanced galactic neighbors. It worked every time. Kai prepared the standard first contact package. Advanced medical knowledge that could cure Earth's diseases, clean energy systems that would end their environmental problems, communication devices that would let them join the galactic community. Everything was carefully chosen to seem impressive, but not threatening. The Council knew exactly how much to reveal at first. Meanwhile, more crystals appeared around Earth. In Tokyo, one materialized in the middle of the electronics district, causing a traffic jam as people stopped to stare. In London, Big Ben's clock tower suddenly had a glowing companion floating beside it. New York's Central Park got one that made the joggers stop and circle around it in amazement. Each crystal showed the same peaceful symbols and star maps, but somehow adapted to the local language and culture. Dr. Jin Soo, Earth's top xenobiologist, was called to Washington within hours. He stood with world leaders as they watched the icy crystals light show. "They're trying to communicate," he explained. "These symbols seem to be mathematical, universal constants that any intelligent species would recognize. They're showing us they understand science and want to talk, President." Hana nodded grimly. "How do we respond?" The question hung in the air. Earth had prepared for this possibility for decades, but theory was very different from reality. The crystals weren't just displaying information, they were analyzing the human responses too. Every time someone approached, the crystals recorded their reactions, their body language, even their brain activity. The Galactic Council was gathering data, learning what made humans tick. It was all part of the process. Lieutenant Somin reported to her commander, "Sir, our satellites are picking up massive energy signatures just beyond Jupiter. Whatever technology is powering these crystals is incredibly advanced." The military was on high alert, but the crystals showed no signs of being weapons. They just waited, pulsing gently, patient as cosmic monuments. In the days that followed, scientists around the world worked together in a way they never had before. The crystals had given humanity a common purpose. Dr. Lee Jun in Seoul shared notes with Dr. Maria in Brazil. Professor Chen in Beijing collaborated with Dr. Ahmad in Cairo. The whole world watched as their brightest minds tried to decode the alien messages. But deep in space, Ambassador Kai was already preparing for the next phase. The humans would soon receive visitors. The real diplomacy was about to begin. The Galactic Council's scouts reported that the humans were reacting exactly as predicted. Wonder was clearly visible on their faces. Fear was starting to mix in as they realized the implications. Soon would come the grateful acceptance of galactic wisdom, if only they knew what humanity was actually planning. Ambassador Kai materialized in the diplomatic chamber aboard his ship, carrying what he believed would be humanity's salvation. The medical technology they were offering could cure cancer, end aging, and eliminate diseases that had plagued Earth for millennia. His psychic abilities let him feel the excitement from his own crew. Surely the humans would be overjoyed. 3. Days later, the return package arrived. Kai opened it with ceremony, expecting formal documents of gratitude or perhaps samples of Earth's culture. Instead, he pulled out hand-knitted scarves in bright colors and patterns that made his eyes hurt. At the bottom was a small device with strange symbols. His translator identified it as something called a USB drive, with a label that read, Earth's Greatest Hits Trot Edition. The Zephyrian delegation gathered around as they played the contents. Music filled the air, not the harmonious symphonies they expected, but something with an accordion, synthesizers, and voices singing in Korean about missing loved ones and dancing at nightclubs. Kai felt his psychic senses overwhelmed by the pure joy and cheesiness of the music. These scarves are actually quite well made, observed his cultural analyst Mi Ryong, wrapping one around her neck. The patterns are complex. Someone spent real time on these. Kai frowned. Through his empathic abilities, he could sense that the gift came from genuine kindness, not mockery. But it made no sense. They had offered to end death itself, and humans responded with winter accessories and dance music. Meanwhile, the ancient Krathari prepared their own approach. These beings had existed since the galaxy's youth, accumulating wisdom that most species would kill for. Their emissary, Elder Zoshin, personally selected memories and philosophies from their greatest thinkers, encoding them into beautiful crystals that glowed with inner light. The crystals contained the answers to questions humanity hadn't even learned to ask yet: the meaning of existence, how to achieve perfect harmony with the universe, the secret to transcending physical limitations. They sent these priceless gifts with the confidence that humans would recognize their true value. The human response arrived, exactly 3 days later. Elder Zoshin opened the package himself, curious about how humanity would react to such profound gifts. Inside was a simple cardboard box, the kind used for shipping. No special materials, no precious metals. Just cardboard with tape. Inside were thousands of small paper birds. Each one was perfectly folded, clearly made by hand. The craftsmanship was remarkable, every crease sharp, every angle precise. At the bottom was a handwritten note in neat Korean characters. "We traded wisdom for these paper birds, fair trade, right?" The Krathari council went silent. Elder Zoshin picked up one of the cranes, turning it over in his ancient hands. "These are origami," he said slowly. "A human art form. Each bird represents a wish or a prayer," he paused. "But wisdom for paper birds, have they misunderstood completely?" The youngest Krathari in the group, called Haijung, spoke hesitantly. "Elder, perhaps they see beauty in simplicity. Each bird had to be folded by hand. Someone spent great time and care making thousands of these." Meanwhile, the vanguard military alliance took a different approach. These were warriors who had conquered half the galaxy through strength and honor. Colonel Jun-ho aboard the flagship Thunderclap received their formal offer. Technology capable of destroying stars, battle strategies that had never failed, weapons that could crack planets in half. The vanguard expected either surrender or a challenge to honorable combat. Their offers always resulted in respect, sometimes fearful, sometimes grateful, but always respectful. They waited with military precision for humanity's response. When the package arrived, Colonel Jun-ho ordered it brought to the command center with full ceremony. His officers watched as he cut through official-looking tape and opened what appeared to be a regular shipping box. Inside were inflatable toys, pool floats shaped like battleships, but in bright colors: pink, yellow, neon green. Some had cup holders built in. Others had tiny flags that read Beach Commander and Admiral of Fun. At the bottom was what looked like an official document, but written on cocktail napkins in purple marker. Colonel Suar read aloud, "The Human Federation formally invites the Vanguard Alliance to the first annual Galactic Beach Party. Bring sunscreen, space floaties provided. RSVP for volcano grilling slots. Dress code, casual but fabulous." The command deck fell silent. These humans had received an offer to become the galaxy's most feared military force, and they responded with party invitations written on napkins. "Sir," whispered Captain Byung-woo, "are they mocking us?" Colonel Jun-ho held up one of the inflatable battleships. It squeaked. "I don't know," he admitted, "but they put a lot of thought into these. Look at the detail work on these toy ships. They're actually quite accurate to our designs." Back on Earth, the response teams worked in shifts. What appeared to be childish pranks were actually carefully calculated moves. Each gift served multiple purposes, testing alien reactions while gathering intelligence. But to the galaxy, humanity had just rejected the three greatest offers in galactic history in the most bizarre ways possible. The other species began to talk. Deep beneath Seoul's sprawling metropolis, Professor Hyojin squinted at her computer screen through thick glasses. Her laboratory looked like chaos to most people, walls covered with alien symbols, mathematical equations, and what appeared to be children's toys scattered on every surface. But Hyojin saw the hidden connections. She picked up one of the scarves they had sent to the Zephyrians, running her fingers along the colorful threads. To most people, it was just a pretty winter accessory, but under her microscope, the weaving pattern revealed something extraordinary. The threads formed a perfect double helix, the structure of human DNA. More than that, the colors themselves represented different amino acids, creating a complete genetic map. "Young-woo, come look at this," she called to her assistant. The young scientist hurried over carrying a cup of instant coffee. "These scarves aren't just scarves. They're a complete biological database of humanity. Every alien species that touched them got a full scan of what makes us human." Meanwhile, on the other side of the lab, Dr. Tae-min was carefully unfolding origami cranes. Each paper bird looked identical, but Tae-min had discovered something remarkable. The fold patterns weren't random, they were mathematical formulas. When he mapped out all the creases, they formed equations that described quantum field theory, multidimensional physics, and space-time manipulation. "The aliens think we're simple because we trade wisdom for paper birds," he laughed. "But each crane proves we understand universe's deepest secrets. We've hidden doctoral-level physics inside children's toys." The most surprising discovery came from Jin Young in the materials lab. She held one of the inflatable battleships, turning it over under bright lights. "This shouldn't be possible," she muttered. "The material composition is incredible. It's not actually rubber or plastic." Her colleague Wu Jin looked confused. "What do you mean?" "Run a molecular scan," Jin Young said, excited. "This toy is made from materials that exist only in theoretical physics. The aliens probably think we're joking, but we just showed them we can manufacture matter that should be impossible to create." 3 floors up, in what looked like a normal administrative office, Da-Yoon coordinated the most complex intelligence operation in human history. Her desk was covered with reports that would sound like pranks to anyone listening. Today's mission: respond to the Ethereal's offer of unlimited clean energy. "The Ethereals are pure energy beings," she explained to her team. "They've offered to share their power source technology. Our response needs to be perfect." Her assistant Ji-hoon looked nervous. "So what ridiculous gift are we sending this time?" Da-yoon smiled. "Solar panels made from paper plates." The room went quiet. Then Min-ho, their youngest agent, started giggling. "Paper plate solar panels. They'll think we're completely insane." "That's the point," Da-yoon said, "but these aren't ordinary paper plates." She held up what looked like a flimsy white circle covered in colorful drawings. Dr. Sung Hyun's team created these. They look like carnival crafts, but they actually convert light to energy with 95% efficiency, better than anything the Ethereals use. She attached a note to the package. "We prefer homemade energy, thanks. Our planet's star is pretty good at this." Within days, the response reached the energy beings. The Ethereals, who existed as living lightning, were initially insulted. Then they actually tested the toys. Their ancient consciousness was shocked to discover that the paper plates worked better than their own technology. Back on Vega Prime, the Galactic Council chambers buzzed with concerned chatter. Ambassador Kai paced nervously while explaining to the Council. "The humans keep surprising us. Their gifts seem silly, but our science teams are finding incredibly advanced technology hidden inside. Elder Zoshin of the Krathari nodded slowly. The origami birds contained mathematics beyond what we thought they understood. These humans are not as primitive as they seemed. Colonel Jun Ho of the Vanguard stood stiffly. Our engineers can't figure out how they made those inflatable ships. The materials are theoretically impossible to manufacture. The energy being ethereal, speaking through electronic translators, added its confusion. Their paper plates exceed our energy conversion rates. How can a species that appeared so childish create such advanced technology? Council Speaker Yena, an ancient being from the first galactic civilization, called for order. It appears we have underestimated humanity. Their responses aren't random or foolish. There's a pattern here. What kind of pattern? Asked Ambassador Kai. The speaker's multiple eyes focused on the assembled data. They're studying us. Each gift tests something different. They learn our biology, our technology, our military capabilities, all while appearing harmless and simple. A younger council member, Na-Un from the Crystal Collective, raised a concern. Are we being played? Are these humans more dangerous than they seem? Emergency sessions were called. Species representatives who had seemed confident before now looked worried. Every delegation reported the same experience. Humans seeming to reject their gifts, only to send back toys that contained impossibly advanced technology. Dr. So Yon from the Galactic Research Institute presented her findings. Preliminary analysis shows the humans have been intercepting our communications for decades. They understand our languages, our politics, our military structures, but they pretend not to understand. The council chamber erupted in voices. Some called for immediate action. Others wanted to study humanity further. A few suggested that maybe, just maybe, humans were testing them. Deep in her soul laboratory, Professor He-Jin smiled as she read the intercepted council communications. Phase 3 was working perfectly. The aliens were starting to realize the truth. Humanity had been playing a very long game, and they were winning. The day the Ascended arrived, every screen on Earth flickered with static before showing the same impossible sight. They weren't ships or beings in any normal sense. Instead, pure white energy formed geometric patterns in the sky above major cities. These weren't just any aliens. The Ascended were legends, beings who had given up their physical bodies millions of years ago to become pure consciousness and energy. Professor Min Su at Seoul National University dropped his coffee mug when the patterns appeared over the Han River. "I've studied theoretical physics my whole life," he whispered to his students, "but this is something beyond our understanding." The Ascended spoke without words, their message appearing directly in people's minds. In every language on Earth, the same offer echoed. "We offer you the ultimate evolution. Leave behind the burden of flesh. Join us in perfect consciousness, free from pain, aging, and death. Transcend your primitive physical existence." In the war room beneath Washington, D.C., President Hana gathered her advisors. "This is it," she said grimly. "The biggest test yet. If we mess this up—" "We won't," interrupted Admiral Tae-woo, his weathered face showing a rare smile. "Our people on the space station are ready." Aboard the International Space Station, Commander Su-jin floated in the observation dome, looking down at Earth where the Ascended's energy patterns pulsed like celestial jellyfish. She had been preparing for this moment for months. Her crew, 6 astronauts from different countries, had secretly practiced their performance until it was perfect. "You sure about this?" asked Dr. Yuki from Japan, adjusting his dancing shoes, specially made for zero gravity. "Trust the plan," Su-jin replied. "If the Ascended want to see what makes us human, we'll show them exactly that." The broadcast began without warning. Earth's most powerful transmitters sent the signal across the galaxy. The Ascended expected negotiations, scientific exchange, or desperate pleading for mercy. Instead, they got something completely different. Music filled the void of space, a mix of Earth's greatest hits from different cultures. The astronauts appeared on screen, floating in their space station with huge grins on their faces. They began what they called the corporeal shuffle, an absurd dance that celebrated everything physical about being human. Commander Cho spun wildly, showing off how his knees could bend and twist. "Look at these magnificent hinges," he declared, patting his legs. "Why would anyone want to give up knees?" Dr. Fatima from Egypt demonstrated the joy of having elbows, bending her arms in crazy patterns while giggling. "These joints are amazing. We can hug, we can wave, we can scratch our heads when confused." The Japanese astronaut Hiro showed off human flexibility, bending and stretching in ways that would be impossible without muscles and bones. "Pure energy can't do yoga," he laughed. Even more bizarre, they celebrated the strangest parts of having bodies. They sneezed on purpose and cheered. They made funny faces by moving their facial muscles. They played rock, paper, scissors, celebrating how their hands could make different shapes. "Being solid is the best," declared Dr. Anna from Brazil, bouncing gently off the station walls. "We can touch things, we can taste food, we can get hiccups." The performance went on for 30 minutes. Earth's most elite astronauts acted like children, celebrating every silly thing about having physical bodies. They ate floating beans and laughed at how they had to chew. They showed off their hair blowing in the station's air circulation. They even demonstrated how humans could sleep, showing the ascended what it was like to need rest. Back on Earth, millions watched with a mixture of embarrassment and pride. In Seoul, teenager Giwon laughed so hard he cried. "They're not making fun of us," he told his worried grandmother. "They're showing why being human is special." The Ascended's response was immediate and terrifying. The energy patterns above, Earth turned from white to red. Their pleasant mental voice became cold and angry. "We offer you godhood and you mock us with this display of primitive attachment to flesh." More alien fleets began appearing near Earth's borders. Ships from species that had never worked together before formed a united armada. The message was clear: explain yourselves or face the consequences. On the lunar base, Ambassador Lin watched through telescopes as the fleet gathered. He had been expecting this moment. His finger hovered over the communication button that would send humanity's real response to the galaxy. "Sir," called Lieutenant Jeho, "the Zephyrians are demanding answers. The Krathari want explanations. Even the Peaceful Harmony Coalition is sending warships." Lin nodded slowly. "They all think we're just a primitive species having a mental breakdown. They can't imagine that everything we've done has been on purpose." The assembled alien fleet was the largest in galactic history. Dozens of species who normally competed with each other had united against the strange humans who seemed to reject all of their gifts. Back on Earth, the chaos was building. News channels showed the alien fleets. Social media exploded with panic, excitement, and memes about the astronaut dance. Some people demanded their leaders surrender. Others cheered for humanity's brave defiance. In her underground command center, General Su Jin received reports from across the globe. "All positions ready, ma'am. Operation Revelation can begin at your command." She looked at the screens showing alien fleets, the still dancing astronauts, and global military preparations. Everything had led to this moment. For years, humanity had been preparing for this exact scenario. "Send the signal," she ordered. "Time to show them who we really are." The truth was about to come out, and the galaxy would never be the same. The ultimate revelation. Earth's diplomatic masterpiece president. Jeho stood tall before the Galactic Council, her posture revealing none of the nervousness she felt inside. The grand chamber, with its soaring crystalline ceiling and hovering platforms, where hundreds of alien representatives sat watching, would have intimidated most humans. But not Jeho. Not today. "Honored members of the Council," she began, her voice clear and steady. "For 50 years you've viewed Earth as stubborn, backward, even foolish. Today I'm here to show you something different." The council chamber hummed with the low murmurs of translation devices. At the center, 7 tall beings with luminescent skin, the High Counselors, leaned forward slightly. "When your ships first arrived in our solar system, offering technology and protection in exchange for our resources and allegiance, many expected us to accept immediately," Jeho continued. "Our rejection puzzled you. You sent more envoys, offered better terms, tried to understand our hesitation. The chief counselor, a being named Zarks, whose skin rippled with patterns of light, raised a slender hand. "Your point, President Jeho. We have granted this unusual hearing at your request, but our patience has limits. Jiho smiled. My point is simple. We weren't rejecting you. We were studying you. She nodded to Dr. Sang-yon, who stepped forward. With a small device in his hand. When activated, it projected a massive hologram showing thousands of communication channels, trading routes, and military positions throughout the galaxy. From the moment your first signals reached Earth, we began listening, explained Sang-yon, his fingers moving through the display, highlighting different areas. While pretending to debate your offers, we analyzed every transmission that crossed our solar system. We studied your methods for generations through intercepted communications. The council chamber erupted in surprised chatter. Jacques' skin flashed angry red patterns. This is outrageous. Spying on council transmissions is exactly what you've done to every developing world before contact, Jiho interrupted. The difference is, we noticed, Dr. Sang-yon continued, zooming in on specific star systems. Every species that accepted your generous offers became junior partners in your hierarchies, their unique cultures absorbed or marginalized, their resources extracted, their people given the illusion of equality while serving council interests. He displayed images of dozens of worlds, once unique civilizations now transformed into cookie-cutter versions of council society. The same architecture, the same economic systems, the same dependent relationship. You claim to value diversity, Jiho said, yet every world that joins your alliance ends up looking remarkably similar within a century. A counselor from the outer rim, with 4 eyes and blue-scaled skin, rose from her seat. This is distortion. We bring prosperity and protection for a price, Dr. Sang-yon replied calmly. The Frosani of Rigel 7 surrendered 80% of their crystal mines. The Zendi people lost their ancient forest religions when you modernized their education system. The Tulari became dependent on your atmospheric regulators after you convinced them to increase industrial output. The chamber grew uncomfortably quiet as the evidence mounted. Jiho nodded to young diplomat Irene, who had been standing silently until now. Irene stepped forward, her traditional Earth clothes standing out among the metallic uniforms of the Galactic representatives. Our childish responses were carefully designed. Each seemingly naive question revealed your technological capabilities. Each delay gave us time to prepare. Each rejection forced you to show more of your hand. She walked closer to the council table. Our rejection was never a rejection at all. It was an acceptance on equal terms. We forced you to treat us as peers, not children to be educated. While you thought we were arguing among ourselves, Jiho added, we were building a network of allies. Other species who felt the weight of your generosity but couldn't speak openly. Together we've created an alternative, not opposition but true partnership. The council sat in stunned realization. Humanity hadn't rejected diplomacy. They had revolutionized it. Jacques' patterns had shifted from angry red to a thoughtful blue. What do you propose then? Jiho looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes and eye stalks and sensory organs of hundreds of different species. A new kind of relationship, one where Earth and other worlds maintain their cultural independence while still benefiting from galactic cooperation, one where technology is shared, not leveraged, where resources are exchanged, not extracted. And if we refuse, another counselor asked. Arin smiled gently. Then we continue as we have been, developing our own path, building our own alliances. But everyone here knows the galaxy faces threats that require unity. We believe working together as equals serves us all better than working apart. Dr. Sang-yon deactivated the hologram. The choice is yours, but remember, humanity will never accept being anyone's junior partner. We've spent too long reaching for the stars to settle for anything less than our full place among them. As Jiho and her team finished their presentation, the chamber buzzed with conversation. For the first time in 5,000 years, the Galactic Council faced a species that had seen through their diplomatic games before they'd even begun. And deep in the eyes of the High Councillors, behind their surprise and discomfort, flickered something unexpected. Respect.